It's your girl, Patrina Dixon. That is my money lady. I'm so excited today. I got a good episode for you. It's a topic that I know you all can benefit from. It's going to be about debt repayment. Yeah, let me say that again, debt repayment. So there's a lot of people that are along this journey, some further than others, but we're going to talk to a guest today. Her name is Nicole Stanley, and she's going to share how when she was in debt and the things that she needed to do or did do to get out of debt, and that you can do it too. But before we get into that, for those of you that rock with me all the time, thank you for being here again for another episode. Those of you that may have stumbled upon us and were new, my name is Patrina Dixon. I am a personal finance coach. Coach. I'm a registered financial consultant and a certified financial education instructor. And I've been across a lot of media outlets and always called upon for a Business Insider and Experian as a finance coach or a financial expert to give tips on personal finance topics. And I also have my own little things, y'all. So drop down below and get the links for your grants for small business owner guide, or you can get information on things that I talk about finances across all of my platforms. So that's me. And if this is a great episode for you, we want to ensure that you're sharing comments so both Nicole and I are aware of how we did in this episode. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest. What's up, Nicole? How you doing?
Hi, Patrina. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Nicole, before we get into your journey.
Yeah, so to introduce myself, my name's Nicole. I am the founder and head financial coach at Arise Financial Coaching. And I started my journey when I was $30,000 in debt and was a young, newly married youngin. And after paying off $30,000 within 10 months and building my family's net worth to over $250,000 on an average annual salary of $56,000 a year, my friends and family noticed that my stress levels were lower, because when you feel in control of your money, it really impacts your life. And so before I knew financial coaching was an industry, I started helping friends and family for free for years. And once I realized that I was a really nosy woman who loved helping people with their budgets, I got more formal training to launch Arise Financial Coaching in 2020, and since then have helped over 700 clients improve their relationship and results with money. So I'm excited to come here today and talk a little bit about my personal journey with paying off debt.
I love that so much. And I think a lot of us finance coaches, that's how we started out, is helping friends and family when they start to see some successes in us as individuals relative to our money. Like, how do you do that? And let me ask you a quick question about that. So I know a lot of personal finance coaches, and oftentimes that is their start. And then they begin to find ways to monetize what they're doing. So it sounds like that's your journey as well. So I love that. And I know you heard her mention the word budget, and there will be a link below relative to a digital budgeted envelope. So you want to make sure you check that out. And then we'll talk more about other resources that will be down below. So Nicole, you talked about the amount of money that you were in debt. Why was it that dollar amount? What made you do it for yourself? We're talking about your personal journey. What was it about that point, that dollar amount, that year that made you say, I need to stop and do something different?
Yeah, so I think part of it was getting married really young, right out of college, and getting married to someone who was pursuing a less income producing career overall. So my dad, I grew up in a Puerto Rican American household, and so my dad was a very hard worker, and he was an engineer, and he made sure that I understood how important it was to provide security and to study the right things. And so when I was getting married at 22, my dad was very, very concerned. So he used to drive me through some of the rough parts of town and tell me that if I got married young, this is where I was going to live. And he really wanted to kind of shake and wake me up where I was young and in love. So I remember telling him, money doesn't matter, Dad. It doesn't matter. I'm in love, right? And it's true. I made a great character choice on who I married, and but it did matter, right? So I started to realize that while we were planning our wedding, because at the time he was making around $26,000 a year. I was making nothing as a college student, and we were already starting our life in debt. We had about a little over $15,000 in student loans. And shortly after we got married, we had to buy a second car. So we acquired another 15 grand of auto debt. And so we were kind of really up against the wire because we were also trying to pay for a wedding. So I started to actually get regular panic attacks while planning our wedding. And I remember specifically this one day, I always talk about it as my turning point, where I'm doing the budget for our wedding over and over, trying to make these numbers work. And I finally just broke down and told my soon to be husband, I was like, if we can't afford this wedding where our friends are doing the flowers, I'm picking flowers, I'm picking greenery from
So
outside.
the two of you were paying for your wedding.
Well, so we had a few grand from his parents, a few grand from my parents, and we were very ambitious to say we are going to try to make it all fit here, but we want everything, or we want to try to do as much as we can. So friends did the cake and the flowers, and my grandmother made the decorations by hand, and right, it was a very bootstrap wedding for the time, and so I had a lot of financial stress planning it. Um, and so I remember looking at him and being like, if we can barely afford what we're chipping in for this wedding when our friends are doing all of these things for us and we're doing so much on our own, how the heck are we going to afford a life together? Right. And that was a really big wake up call for us because I was very stressed about our financial futures. We spent, the first year of our marriage really having arguments over money.
Well, I was just gonna let me pause you right there. So, because I get this question a lot, and people wonder about this a lot. There are people that are couples, or either starting off new, or either in a long-standing relationship, and one is better about money than the other. So it seemed like you had anxiety. You said often, I did the budget. How did he play into the whole financial thing before you got to the year of, having arguments about that? How was it leading up to that point?
Well, I think that we were young, and so we wanted to communicate about everything. And so, in a lot of our premarital classes, we started to take family of origin kind of questionnaires, et cetera. So, kind of our differences about money were starting to show up
Mm,
like very early on in our engagement and in our dating life, because I grew up in a household where we were always stressed about money. My
mhm.
parents were always talking about it, stressing about it. He grew up in a household where his parents didn't talk about money, but that didn't mean that they didn't have financial problems. So we both were coming from these different viewpoints and had to start to talk early on about, okay, neither one of us look at our lives and say we'd like to emulate this, but rather what are the parts that are good we want to bring into our marriage and what are the parts that are bad. And we realized that we wanted to talk about things, we didn't want it to be filled with stress. And so I think that was the groundwork for us beginning to make a different story, because he was very open, especially seeing my stress about it, to be like, okay, we got to take a class.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up to the class and we're going to budget together, right? And because he knew he was pursuing a career that was not as high paying, he was pursuing youth ministry, which is like youth services in churches. He knew that it was his job also to be really studious of the money that we did have, because if he wanted to pursue that career path, he needed to do that. So he showed up, 100% in his A game, to start to make a plan. And once we had a plan, once we started to get educated, we both became very personal finance nerdish, and a little too much, I think. But we were very motivated by, like, hey, we can pay off this debt. We can change our financial lives if we just educate ourselves and if we stay focused. So, both of us kind of went all in to that journey together, which I think is why we were able to be so successful. It wasn't just me on my own, but because I'm the worrier, I definitely, I'm in the
You're
spreadsheets.
closer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that debt number that you talked about, was that a combined debt number, or was that your debt number?
that was our debt number.
Oh, your
So I did not have any student loans. I got a scholarship.
Mhm.
So that was a really big thing for me when we got
Okay.
married. And but I usually share the story as our debt because I got married.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's a part of our life. I didn't want that.
Between one.
Yeah, two become one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. So, again, so now back to the question of why was it that at that point in time when you wanted to get on well, I'll call it a debt-free journey, that's just the number you happened to be at, or was it that it had gotten to that number and you're like, hey, wait, hold up.
No, it was that I was very against debt and I felt that stress very intensely. And so once I would say that our financial goal real focus started an engagement because we took our first financial course together when we were engaged because I just knew I'm looking at the numbers. I'm seeing what he's making, I'm seeing what I'm not making. I'm starting off you know, we wanted to set ourselves up as best as we could. And so, we didn't have a lot to start with, but I do believe that it was that intentionality that started to change, at least with what we would do with it, and not just say, well, we're going to stay in debt because we only make X amount, right? I wasn't satisfied
Yeah.
with that.
Okay, so now you have made the decision together that you want to get out of this debt. Talk to us about three steps that were effective, regardless if it was hard or not, but effective in your debt payoff, if you will.
Yeah.
And what
So
and what the debt was.
Yeah, so the debt was student loans and auto debt. And the three, I think, tactical steps was first, I needed to see what we could reasonably live on in our life together. So, because we didn't have children and we were in Phoenix, Arizona, we decided, we are going to try to live on one of our salaries. So, my husband was able to get a new job where he made about 40,000 at that time. And then I got an entry level sales job. So this was not a job that I wanted to have. Okay. But your girl was so annoyed about having debt. And so I was like, I am going to hustle and do a cold call sales job so that I can make some extra money to pay off our debt. And so I worked that cold call sales job for 9 months.
Mm.
I worked my little tush off, and 100% of those extra commission payments went towards paying off our debt.
I
And the
love
second I had enough money to do it, I put in my resignation
it. I love
because that was stressful, but increasing our income was a really big part of it. Figuring out how much money we really needed to live. And, my husband and I were willing at the time, I usually don't suggest this for people, but we were really frugal frannies. I flipped cloth diapers on Marketplace. I nanny, when I came home, I stayed home with my first child. I nannied, I taught English online, I took side hustles so that I could not just pay us off debt, but we ended up doing a fix and flip where we lived in a live in flip. It was a disgusting house that we moved into that we put in a ton of sweat equity, but we're able to flip that house after a couple years of living in it, which made a big difference. And then by age, we started investing in our own retirement. So, really boring old investing principles. We started off with a couple $100 a month, which is what we could do. And then once we hit $100,000 in our retirement by age 27 on that average annual salary of 56,000 a year over the time that we were married, was a really big goal for us because we knew that even if we didn't invest any more money, we would be able to retire, which was a really big part of my financial fears. Um, and then we were able to kind of rethink the ways that we worked because we felt less stressed not being in debt, not having, knowing we were set for our own retirement. And then since then, in the year 2025, we now have a combined net worth of over a $500,000. Um, and that is a 10-year change from $30,000 in debt to a cumulative net worth of 500,000 with no inheritance, no, you know, crazy stock trading or, raising our income. We have raised it, but we still make well within the middle class American.
And is this debt free or just now manageable debt because you're making more money, you're able to keep up with, I'll call it the everyday debt, the credit card debt, the car loan debt kind of thing, or do you not have any debt?
We have mortgage debt on our investment property, and we don't have any auto debt. I just can't stand auto debt after that car. But we did recently make a cross country move
Okay.
where I didn't want to drain my full emergency fund, so we took on some 0% debt so that we could come be with family with health stuff. So we made a big move this year.
Okay.
But I don't
Where'd you
really see
go?
that.
Arizona to where?
So we moved first from Arizona to Colorado, and then we moved Colorado to Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very expensive change, but we have a lot of family members here, so it was worth the financial sacrifice
Mhm.
to come here and bring our kids to be near cousins and grandparents. It's been a really good move. But yeah, we have a little bit of credit card debt to do that move, but I don't consider myself as someone who like carries auto loans, etc.
So, let's break down some of these things. So, you talked about the type of debt you had: auto loans and student loans, right? And then some people may not have either. Some may have both and more. If credit card was in there, and you talked about like taking on, because I'm talking that some people have credit card debt as well. One of the things that you talked about that I really love is side hustles and being intentional about when you take on a side hustle, extra job, whatever it is. You said that you took on this job that you didn't like, but you had a goal, and it ended in after 9 months by taking this money, making sure that that money went towards the debt, and you actually accomplished it. So talk about your mindset in doing that, because oftentimes when people take on side hustles and or second jobs, it's or let's say side hustle specifically, it's supposed to be about something you enjoy doing, so that you don't be like, oh, I got to do this again. But yours was intentional. How did you choose that role? Is it something that you had a skill set in before? So people, again, keeping the mindset that folks are listening, trying to figure out how they get out of debt, but they may not have the luxury and time to take on another job. So how did you get yourself set to do that? Was it just that leering debt number looking at you, or was it something else that got you like, I got to do this, it's intentional, I'm not going to spend it on shopping, it's for that? Talk a little bit about that shift in mindset in order to be able to accomplish that.
I It's funny that you bring that up because I've done so many different side hustles
Mhm.
like that. I feel like I don't know if I liked any of them.
Really?
Like truly, I mean, I run my business now, which is full time. So like I'm a W-2 employee of my own company. I have a couple employees that are on the team full time, and I really like that. I took my first sales job because I saw that there was an income potential and I knew I had social skills, right? And so it was an entry level job. I knew I could learn on the job. Um, I think that taking that sales job changed the trajectory of my life because I had to learn hard skills. So I really do believe that every job, it's not like above or beneath anybody, right? Like I would be a server tomorrow. I would, that's always been my mentality. I know it's not that way for everyone, but I knew that I could either take a job that had a set salary or I could take a job where I had an opportunity to outperform my peers and make more money.
Yes.
And my personality leads towards competitive nature. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to be the best salesperson at that corporate job and, so I could get out of it sooner. So
Were
I
you
just,
only getting paid on your sales, or did you get a salary and then you got more for the when you made sales?
yeah, so it was an entry level job. So I got paid $30,000 a year to be there and to get yelled at on the phone by people. But at that time, it was Phoenix, Arizona. It was not uh, $30,000 isn't anything to really like say, wow, I've made it, right? Like that is a pretty entry level.
That's anywhere, if you could say, that it's the way that things are. We're now, when this episode drops, I don't know how much eggs will be, but they're really expensive right now. But so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I didn't have a child then, too.
Yeah.
So I
Was it
leveraged that.
gross or net? Was that what your gross was, or what you actually brought home?
That was my gross.
Mm.
Yeah, and then, you know, taxes and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
And it was a I mean, it was an 8 to 5, 8 to 6 job. It was corporate life. I had a 45-minute commute both ways. It was not a fun job, but it was character building. And I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for that job because it taught me skills. I think every person in the world should work a sales job at least once. I think it builds character. I really do. And I want all my kids, like truly, I'm going to make sure that all of my kids before they go to college have work sales jobs because I know that you know, it, everything you do is affected by sales. And so therefore it's some of the best training I think anyone can get. But that's, again, these are just my personal opinions. But I can look back at that job and say, wow, I'm so happy I learned something. I learned skills there that I get to use later on. And I think that about every job I've worked is that it's a learning opportunity, not just a payment, right? And for me, when I worked those side hustles, my real goal at the time, because I had my full-time job and then I stayed home with my daughter for a couple years because I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Uh, Spoiler alert, I didn't. But I had that vision. For me, I was working those jobs so that I could be at home,
Yeah.
which was the goal. And so I never really viewed jobs as my main fulfillment in life. Like, I'm so lucky now that I get to do this work that I'm so passionate about. But that was not always something that was, I, I could rely on. I had to figure out how to get there. And I think that jobs can sometimes be, you know, the pathway to
Well,
financially get
when
there.
somebody is thinking, so say if somebody agrees with you and they want to go into sales, great. But when they go about looking for, okay, I'm going to go along this debt payoff journey. I'm going to be intentional about where the money goes when I earn it. So you landed on sales. I'm not sure how you got there, and you said you had a ton of others. How did you go about? Was it, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to leverage the skills that I already have, and whatever that may be. Like if I love to drive, maybe it's Uber Eats, maybe it's regular Uber, DoorDash, or whatever have you. What one thought? Can you share a thought on how one should go about one remembering that the why is debt payoff? The second is doing something in addition to bring money on to be intentional about paying it off. How would they go about choosing that side hustle in your mind?
Um, well, if they're talking about a side hustle, the first thing is I don't like to just take on extra work because I like to make sure that somebody actually needs the extra money. Does that make sense? Because sometimes you're already making enough money.
Yeah.
And that's typically what I find with people. Like I always say, really, there's only five main financial problems. It's either a spending problem, a fixed expense problem, a true income problem, which means you can't lower your expenses or spending enough to make it work. And then there's a money management problem, meaning you need to have a plan. And then the fifth problem is that it's a financial strategy problem where like you're putting all this money towards debt when you don't have any savings, or you're putting it towards investing when you have high interest debt, right? Like there's all these different problems that it could be. And so I don't actually think that raising your income always solves your problem, because if you have a spending problem where you always spend whatever's in your account, we could keep raising your income, right? But if you're not aware that that's your problem holding you back, then maybe you could actually solve that problem with the income you already have. But if you find, okay, I have an income problem, I need an extra $1,000 a month, and I can do what I need to do to hit my financial goals. Um, I think that the best question to ask yourself is, what do I do naturally that when I'm on my own, like free time? What do I naturally go to? Is it helping people? Is it talking to people? Do I naturally clean and organize spaces? Do I naturally, work on systems? Like, what are some of those natural things that you kind of can't stop yourself from doing?
Yeah.
And then you can ask yourself, well, where is that considered a superpower? And where would they pay me for that?
Yeah.
Because it's not always about starting your own business. Like starting your own business is a great way to start making money, but it also has its own cons, right? You got to find your own client. And so I think a lot of people in the online space just hear, start your own business, start your own business, start your own business. And it's like, what about like work part-time,
Yeah.
or like get a contract to do this, right? And see what people are charging. So I think it's really starting with your skills and then asking yourself, where is this considered a superpower? Are there flexible slash remote options to do this? Are there ways for me to do this on a contract basis if you have another full-time job? And even starting to compare it to what you do full time and saying, can I leverage what I do full time and actually make more? What if I worked at a different company? What's the market value for what I make, right? Like side hustles, I think can sometimes be a distraction because people already have skills that maybe they aren't getting enough money for
Well, true.
in their current role,
Mhm.
right? So I kind of see it a little more holistic and not viewing side hustles as a band-aid. Because for me, in my life, I had an income problem when I was at home, right? We had a certain amount of money and it was not enough. And if I would have spent more time just focusing on that, I think I actually would have solved my problems faster. But instead, I kind of just hustled the whole time, which it worked out. But looking back, I would have done it a different way.
Okay, that's interesting. I think I completely agree with you. It could be some of those other things. I think there's in what I hear from I'll call it the It's My Money community, it's more about trying to get in more. But to your point, you can get in more but still not pay off the debt. You can get more to spend more, right? So so I still want to get to yours was an income problem. You fixed that, but it still was you had to make the conscious decision to put it towards the debt and not spend it. Is it because you were always a frugal spender anyway, so you that was your personality, or is it that the debt was so overwhelming for you that the only thing you could think about was putting it there and not anywhere else?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I I don't think that for me personally, slash a lot of clients, I don't always feel that just the word debt payoff is a goal. I always ask, what is behind the debt payoff that I'm searching for? And so for me, if I, speaking honestly, I watched my dad work very hard in his life and never be able to feel confident in his own retirement. And I watched that weigh on my father in ways that I wouldn't share publicly on this podcast. But I carried that weight with me because I saw what he did for my sister and I to give us a better life. And I I saw the worry that it gave him. And so for me, when I saw my first compound interest chart, I saw, holy moly, if I just get started investing sooner, I don't have to worry about the government taking care of me when I get older. I don't have to live with this fear if I get fired. You cannot rely on anybody
Yeah.
to take care of you. Nobody is coming to save you.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Oh my
And
gosh, did you just say that? So I literally recorded a podcast that somebody used those exact words. They looked into the camera and said, "Nobody's coming to save you." That's so interesting that you said the same thing. Wow.
it's true. I saw that from a young age. I really did. And I saw how life changes. Again, I try not to share too much about my parents' story because that's their story. But I think that we're all impacted by how we grew up,
Oh,
for better or for
absolutely.
worse.
Absolutely.
And for me, I knew I will ensure that my children do not grow up with the fear that they will have to take care of me financially when I get older. I think that's the best gift I could give my children, and I want to give them the gift of opportunities in life and not be. I don't want to feel beholden to any employer, to any government entity. This is pretty wildly American of me, okay? But that was what I said. I said I am going to make sure that I don't care what Social Security does, and I'm going to make sure I do it at age 22 because if I don't figure out how to do that, I'm going to spend my whole life worrying and watching the TV about what's going to happen. And so I wanted to do something different. And so I said, the faster I can get out of debt, the faster I can start investing. And that's exactly what I did. I just invested like crazy. Because I knew if I could just get started earlier, I wouldn't have to worry. And that's ultimately what, for me, financial freedom is about, knowing, hey, I could retire when I'm 40 or not, right?
Yeah,
That
exactly. So
that's freedom.
how do you what would be your tip though in ensure like giving to somebody that decides they want to pay off debt, so we know that that's what they want. They then take on getting this extra money because that is what they've defined their problem to be, to ensure that that money goes towards the debt. Because I have worked with a lot of people that know that the income is the topic. The spending contributes, but not as great as one would think. And then it's get the extra income, but the income doesn't go to pay off
Go
the debt.
there.
It right.
Yeah.
Or it goes there, but the spending begins to increase because now I have more money, so I think I can spend more, even though I'm paying debt moderately. So how do you
Yeah.
like how it's still I'm just still trying to crack the nugget of how they intention do it with intentions of doing that and actually do it.
Yeah. I think the best thing someone can do if they don't trust that they'll be able to do it, like, is you got to automate it.
Yes. Okay.
So what that means is, what is your goal? Okay, your goal is you want to pay off debt. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it on your calendar of when, you have that. When is your end of the month reconciling? You're going to set it as a time and it's going to be called debt payoff date, right? And you are going to, I don't know, invite your partner to it. You're going to buy a little bit of wine. I don't know, whatever you need to do, okay? But you need to put it on your calendar and you also need to make it a little public, right? To your partner, to a friend, accountability, right? And you need to be like, okay, this is when I calculate how much money I have to send towards my debt, and I actually send it during this time. Because a lot of people can't automate something that they don't know how much they're going to have. So you need to set the date, and you need to, by the end of that hour, you've sent the money,
Yeah.
right? And then if you aren't paying off debt, let's say that your goal is to invest. For us, the way that I can only make that happen, there's only one way, okay? And that is payday is the first, and the second, our automatic withdrawals have to go towards our retirement, right? So it's not really like, how did I do? Can I spend the money? No, the money's gone,
Yeah.
right? The money's invested. So that's how it's going to get in there because if I leave it to myself, I'll always find a reason. I
Exactly.
will always find another reason. Always. Life is expensive. Eggs are $5. What are we supposed to do here, right?
Five. I heard in LA they were like nine, between 9.99 and 15.
Holy
Right now,
minestrone.
right now, today is what is today? January, what is it? 29th or 30th? January 29th,
Yes.
2025.
Yes. But I mean, so I think it's automating it or setting the date. And then the last thing is if you don't find yourself motivated, I think you got to dig deeper into your why
Mm,
because your why has to set your little bum on fire.
yeah,
If you don't feel your why in your stomach, your why isn't strong enough.
yeah,
Because I don't get out of bed in the morning to say, "Oh, I just want to see my debt balance go down."
yeah,
Heck no. I get out of bed in the morning for a financial goal when I see what it's going to do for my kids, my community. Like, I love, what lights me up now in my financial life is I know I've got two full-time employees that their lives, rely on the business and that I get to provide them flexible working opportunities. I get to give myself that. That gets me out of bed in the morning. If your financial goals don't get you out of bed, it's time to reevaluate.
yeah. But you're that's a what I want to call a different type of motivation. This one is like a drainer. So one of the things that I used to share is if people are open to doing this is putting that number up there. And to your point, if they want to do it monthly and have that debt day, and let's just say it's whatever it is, $200 they're paying towards, then put the new number on it and kind of see that number go down, but something visually to remind them of their why. Seeing them accomplishing something, meaning the number going down. So, any other like steps like that you can share that will help them along the way as they go on this? Because it's great, you can coach somebody accordingly if they decide to do that. If they want to do it on their own, and if they don't have an accountability partner, they have to like sort of encourage themselves, right?
No, you still need one. You can get an accountability partner for free. You
No,
got
no, no.
friends?
I'm saying if they don't have one, not that that's
Yeah.
not everybody's situation. Because I agree, accountability partners are great, especially if it's a finance coach that can help you along the way. But let's say it's not that; it's a best friend, a husband, a daughter, whatever it is, whatever that person is. But not everybody even has that free resource, if you will. So, what can they do themselves to also help? Is it putting something on the wall and then seeing that number go down? Is it the opposite, not having anything saved and put something in there and seeing it grow? Anything like that you can add that they can do themselves if they don't have an accountability partner?
Yeah. I think definitely if you are, it depends. Have you read the book Atomic Habits?
I have not.
Okay. So if you are somebody who is really set on changing your life with your finances, one of the best books you can read is Atomic Habits because Atomic Habits is not just about saying, I'm going to hit a goal, because many people, when they set a financial goal, they set this big one where they say, I'm going to pay off X amount of debt, or I am going to invest X amount of dollars, or I'm going to start this business, and it's all outcome related. When you really want to change your financial life, it's actually about changing your financial habits. And so, why I love this perspective is because, yes, have that visual payoff goal, right? But then I want you to actually break it down into what habits can I adopt that are within my control that I can start to celebrate or gamify? So an example would be like, he gives this example in his book about Jerry Seinfeld, who I'm sure you know, one of the best comedians. He's so funny, right? Jerry Seinfeld wanted to be the best comedian in the country. And so he didn't say, well, I'm going to set this goal of like, I just want to get the most laughs or whatever. He said, if I'm going to be the best comedian, I have to write a joke every single day. And so he had this calendar that he put an X on every day that he wrote a joke. And it didn't matter if the joke sucked, if it was good, or if it was bad. He was committed to building the habit of writing jokes every day. And so I think a lot of people view their financial goals as like pass or fail. It's like I either put X amount towards debt or I didn't.
Exactly.
When really, I would rather you focus on what are my financial habits that I know will yield good results and how can I gamify the process of that
Yeah.
so that it actually creates an identity shift
Yeah.
in me. Because becoming somebody who doesn't overspend isn't something that happens overnight,
That's right.
but you can practice some of the habits and gamify those and give yourself, fun treats
Ooh,
or
yeah.
games
Yeah.
at the end of it,
Yeah.
right? So that you celebrate the person you're becoming,
Mm-hmm.
not just the financial result, pass or fail.
Exactly.
So I actually like to disconnect the financial result and focus on the habit
Yeah.
because the financial result will happen
Yeah.
when we do those habits, which I think is actually encouraging
Yeah.
if you could also put some of those habits along the way. And maybe that habit is I notice I always overspend with eating out because I'm tired and I've got hungry kids. So my habit that I'm going to build every day is or that I'm going to seek out is that every week I make a meal plan and I put on the meal plan meals that I am genuinely stoked to eat. And if I can grocery shop for those meals, I know I have a better chance at eating at home, right? So what I'm going to check off is saying I will meal plan and grocery shop once a week. And if I do that, I know I'm set up
Yes.
more for success. You know what I'm saying?
Completely agree with you. I like even for me personally, I a lot of from a grocery perspective, what helps me in buying because I'm that one that goes into the grocery store. I'm like, oh, this is new. Oh, and I'm trying that. So I do a lot of grocery delivery so that okay, I'm going on. These are the things that I want to make on for this particular week, or this is I'm not over shopping if I know we're going to be away and the stuff is just here when I could buy that the next week or whatever have you. So I'm literally buying the things that I know for sure that we're going to make, we enjoy. It may not always be the best things for us, but I know that we are going to consume them. So that
Yeah.
contributes to a couple of things. I'm saving time. I'm buying the things that we will use because those were the items that I chose to put in the cart. And I've removed me overbuying on stuff that is just because I was in the store and I saw it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that helped me. I started that like, back when we were going through the pandemic, but it was a habit that to your point, it was a habit that I continued because I saw the other positive things that came from that and it gave me time back in my day as well as reduction in the overall price or the overall total of a grocery bill because I wasn't buying that extra stuff just because it was cute, it was in the line, it was like what is that? I hadn't seen that before, let me try that out or something like that. So that definitely is true regarding the habits and that contributing to the overall goal. I completely agree with that as well. So, Nicole, you shared some great things here. Congratulations on the steps that you've taken personally, you and your husband to get out of debt. And now talk to us about if people are interested and wanting to hear more from you. Where can they find? What do you got going on? Where can they find you? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I firmly believe that our personal way towards financial freedom is fairly personal. There are some strategic things you can do that are really good that everyone can do, budgeting, saving, paying off debt. But sometimes you know the things you should do and you're still not doing them. And that can sometimes be where financial coaching comes in. And so if you're listening to this and you know you've been budgeting, you've been putting in the work, but you're not seeing the results, your savings aren't going up, your debt balance isn't going down, your investments aren't going up, and overall you feel stressed about money, maybe it's time to reach out to a financial coach. And if you resonate with my story or anything I've shared, feel free to reach out to us. you can go to our website at arise.financial. There's no .com. We also post a ton of free content on Instagram and host free classes to help demystify investing and teach you about what you should be working on financially based on where you're at. So you can always check us out there at arise.financial.coaching. And if you want to fill out an application to work with us, it is free. You'll set a free call with us and we will discuss whether or not we are a good fit.
So much, and that link will be down below. So thanks again, Nicole, for being on the show and sharing the tips on how you got to be where you are relative to your debt and your overall net income. Appreciate that. And you all, thank you for rocking with us. I appreciate you always for listening in. If this is your first time listening, make sure you drop down and hit that subscribe button and that notification so you'll know when we drop a new episode. And if you didn't know and you didn't hear my announcement, we now drop the first and third Thursday of every month. Yes, you get a new episode every single month in regards to financial topics to help you along your journey on financial journey as well as entrepreneurship, because we talk about things on the entrepreneurship level and the debt-free money for your business called grants. So make sure you keep it locked here and drop down below for some great resources that can help you along both of those journeys as well. You make it a great day.